Welcome back to the Cheap Heat Productions podcast. Okay, welcome back to the show. And here he is again. It's our most viewed, our most famous man we've ever had on the podcast, the most viewed one,
I
Mr.
don't know,
Mario.
Maurice. I am so impressed with that intro. I mean, you had Chum Lee on there. That's my man.
Yeah,
Chum
I
Lee.
need to, I need to get you back into it now as well because you're obviously our highest viewed podcast, so we need to get you in there as well. I've been meaning to kind of refresh that for 2022, so I'm going to get onto that.
yeah. Chum Lee's the guy.
Yeah, I was very fortunate. It took a while, because when they're at that level, you just take a chance. When
Right,
when I'm doing this thing, the response rate is maybe 10%. You know,
right,
I've
right,
sent out so many emails to so many different people, but then when you get to someone like him, you got to deal with agents and go up the
right.
ladder and stuff like that. But we got there in the end. He's a cool guy. He's a wrestling fan actually as well.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
fantastic.
how was things been with Paradise Pro Wrestling?
Well, it's independent pro wrestling, and these things can be hit or miss sometimes. Along with the COVID thing, although the numbers are way down here in Connecticut. Um, the COVID thing, the weather, we had to cancel a couple of weeks ago because of the blizzard that was coming.
Yeah.
But we had a show this past Saturday, and it wasn't bad. A couple guys got hurt, which I wasn't happy about. But other than that, it was pretty good. It pays the bills,
Yeah.
so keeps the
Was
doors
it
open.
Yeah. Was it just a case of freak accidents or what happened to your
Well,
guys?
one of my veterans, Marcel Williams, and I was there and I was watching it. And he went to the top rope, and he usually drops an elbow from the top rope, and he did a swanton. So
Wow.
he was wrestling my heavyweight champion, who was Matthias De Napoli, and I guess he tried to mimic him, like, I'm going to beat you with your own finish, but it was a false finish. But he came down on a wrong angle. He hurt his hip. So, um, as I say on Monday nights when I teach the rookies, this isn't badminton. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? This isn't horseshoes. This is tough stuff. And, if you're not careful, you can really hurt yourself in there. So you gotta be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Paradise is rolling around. It's still rolling forward. You know, Roma and I talk every day, Paul Roma, and I just got off the phone with him 10 minutes before I got in touch with you. And Paul Perez and Big Steve Tracy, they're still in it. We're all have the same partners, and we're rolling along. We just want to have a bigger spring and a bigger summer. We're putting our heads together as far as production and seeing what we can do. But it's
Yeah.
going fine.
In terms of your own wrestling career, then I seen you left the boots in the middle of the ring. Have you finally called it a day?
Well, listen, I had to. The kids, anywhere from 17 to 24, um, they call me, uncle in uh, in the school, and they're like, "Oh, we want to work with you. We want to work with you. We want to work with you." I'm like, I'm going to be 56 in June. What do you want from me? So that this one kid, Flash, who is an excellent worker. I mean, he's superb. He's really good. Um, he's like, please, please, and I said, okay, no problem. I'm going to work with you. I said, the storyline's going to be bigger than the match because I'm limited. So I came up with, he has a belt. So I came up with his championship against my retirement. So if I lose, I can never wrestle again. And as I looked at him in the wrestling school, I said, guess who's going to lose that match? So, we put it together. Flash had some input. I had some input. Roma was the guest referee. You know how that
Yeah.
went. So,
Hmm.
it worked out well. I was able to hook his mother and father, which made me really happy. I mean, they were really mad at me.
Yeah.
Um, because the false finish was, he had me beat and Roma counted 1, 2, but because we have 38 years together, Roma couldn't count 3.
Yeah.
So he went to bang the 3 and he just shook his head and he went, I can't do it. I can't do it. And he went to walk out and Flash, of course got a hold of him by the shoulder and turned him around and said, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Where's the 3? Where's the 3?" And by the time Flash turned around, I clocked him with the belt and then I covered him and Roma did the old,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So I got up, I had the belt over my shoulder. They started playing my ring music, which is Pour Some Sugar on Me by Def Leppard. And they started playing the ring music, and I have it on my shoulder. And I looked out to his mother and father, and I'm patting it on my shoulder. The father actually looked at me like that to me. I go, "Oh, he's pissed." But then another referee came out and whispered to the ring announcer and said, "Yeah, because Mario cheated, the match continues, and Roma's ejected." So as
Hmm.
Roma's walking away, I'm leaning over the top rope going, "Roma, get back here. Roma, get back here." And of course, by the time I turned around, and then we took it home. So,
Yeah. What?
so it was nice. I left my boots in the middle. The whole dressing room emptied out and came out. And one of my daughters was there. I had her come into the ring and I gave her a hug. And it was just really nice. And I was just, a lot of guys cry and they did. I was just glad it was over because Maurice, I really had my fill.
Yeah.
I started pro wrestling school my senior year in high school when I was 17. So I'm going to be 56 in June. I had my day. I had my fill.
Nearly 40 years. But
Yeah,
but even though, like you say, you weren't like crying or anything like that, it must have been like emotional to
well,
let go of something like that.
it's funny because and I know a lot of wrestlers would agree. Um, I have a really close friend of mine, like a brother, Kevin, and he wanted to walk me back to the dressing room, and he was walking me back through the aisle, and I was about to go through the curtain, and your mind just goes, my conversations with Strongbow and when I wrestled in the garden in my first match, all that stuff goes through your head, even though as you're walking back to the dressing room for the last time.
Hmm.
So yeah, you're right. It is a little bittersweet, but you know, uh, when you get up the next day when you're 55 and a half, that
It's going to add some more years to your life probably. There's a lot of guys that should hang it up and don't hang it up.
yeah, well, that's what I'm accused of too.
Yeah.
Like like I had I had I had inboxed my ex-wife because we are the best of friends, and I said I hung it up last night. She said, "Yeah, okay," and I'm Santa Claus, and I'm like, yeah.
So so she's definitely not buying it.
Yeah. So, um,
When when we talked last time, we talked about obviously you being Undertaker's first match,
right.
and we were thinking you said you want to go if he's getting inducted, and here we are. It's the 8th of February. WrestleMania is next month, and we still have no idea of anyone who's going into the Hall of Fame. Surely, maybe they're not going to do it this year, but surely it would make sense because it's in Dallas, his home state and things like that. If he does end up getting inducted, are you still planning on coming down as a guest
Well,
or as a fan even?
well, I have a rule. like, right, I've dated women that are uh really big wrestling fans, and one even had me sign her, you know, encyclopedia, even though we were dating. It was kind of strange, but
Yeah.
um and they'd say, listen, there's going to be wrestling in Hartford, will you come? And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't sit in a crowd and watch wrestling. I don't.
Yeah.
So unless I'm invited, I will never attend any wrestling function as a fan. Not that I'm better than that, but you see, some of these independent wrestlers are really lucky because after from the 80s to 90s to now, so these guys that get released from the WWF, they go on the independent circuit. And these guys have the nerve, they have the guts to go, hey, can I get a selfie with you? So if it was 1985 and I walked up to Hogan and said, hey, Terry, can I get a picture with you? He'd be like, what? What are you, Mark? Taboo. Just taboo. Stuff like that was taboo. You know, where all your pictures with all the, no, not back then. That didn't happen. So I'm kind of old school that way. You know what I mean? The thing I'm happiest about is there's a promoter. His name is Scott Wilder, and every year I'm asked, "You're going to do the big event. You're going to do the big event. You're going to do the big event." I'm not booked for the big event. Nobody booked me for the big event. Are you going to? Oh, you're not going? No, I'm not going. I didn't booked for it. And finally, last month, he got a hold of me and he said, hey, I want to book you for the big event. I went, oh, okay. I'm fine. So supposedly, this is the one of the biggest wrestling conventions prior to WrestleMania.
Hmm.
So this big event thing. So I'll be in Queens on March 5th. And then the next day I'll be in Allentown, PA, doing I think a smaller convention. But going back to what you said, I mean, I'm going to be there, and a lot of WWE guys are going to be there.
Hmm.
So if they want to invite me, I'm going to, I'll be present right there.
So,
Um,
so are you going to be in Dallas WrestleMania week anyway?
no,
No.
no, I would not be there unless the office called me or, um, you know, who's a big fan of mine that I heard, it's not confirmed, but that's, um, Mark, um, the power lifter guy, the
Mark
big
Henry?
guy, Mark Henry.
Hmm.
Um, so if Mark Henry is at the big event, I'll introduce myself to him, and I know he's good friends with Taker, and don't think I won't mention it to him because I will. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Because me personally, um, it's not animosity, but it's a matter of respect. Like when you were a jobber back in the 80s, you were a jobber, and the friends I'm with now, Greg Valentine, the Honky Tonk Man, Ted DiBiase, you know, Tito Santana, those guys treated you as an equal. They didn't treat you like a jobber, but there was another half that did. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
you're just a jobber. You know what I mean? So, I took a lot of bumps, and I did it with my mouth shut, and I was happy to do it, thinking that there was going to be a rainbow at the end. You know what I mean? Because when you got into the business, the preaching was pay your dues, pay your dues, pay your dues, pay your dues, pay your dues. So I was there for 8 years doing nothing but paying my dues. You know what I mean? Oh, you're going to work a
Yeah.
6-man tag team with the Funk Brothers, Jimmy, Jack, Dory, and Terry. And Terry Funk coming up to me going, yeah, after we go over on you, we're going to cow tie you, and we're going to pull your trunks down, and we're going to brand your ass. Don't worry about it. It's ink. It's not a hot iron. It's ink. So, you know, I have a family too, and a mother and father, and they're, you know, huge wrestling fans. That's how I got into it. And they're there watching their son. with his ass hanging out on national TV, getting a stamp on his ass, getting spray painted by Adrian Adonis, getting his hair cut by Beefcake. You know what I mean? I'm getting a stinker from the Nasty Boys underneath their armpits and doing several stretcher matches, So do I think I have something coming to me? I do. I think I have that respect coming to me. You know what I mean? We're just, a simple recognition, because when these guys, especially the guys in the 90s, the late 90s, early millennium, they think of Paul Roma and Mario Mancini like, are they here? Where? I mean, they want to meet us. You know what I mean? They have respect. You know what I mean? That's all I did, just show. Listen, I'm not going into the Hall of Fame. And I didn't make a ton of money. I'm not on the coast in Los Angeles, a retired professional wrestler. Right? So, let me feel like what I did, it was worth something. It was worth something. Just show me it was worth something, not just a bunch of bumps to make sure that your gate was good at the Survivor Series or the WrestleMania. You know what I mean? Getting your guy over. Just show me it was worth something. That's all.
Yeah. In terms of that first match, and obviously that was recorded before the Survivor Series and aired afterwards, as you said last time.
Right.
Did you meet Mark that day to go through the match with him? Was that when you met him for the first time, or can you describe how you guys first came in contact with each other?
Oh, yeah. Well, I went up to my second father, which was Chief Jay Strongbow. And, he's at that point, I'm like his son. So as far as Chief goes, I get away with murder. So he's writing on the board in the dressing room. I am standing there with my hands on my hips, standing next to him, and I go, "Who am I working with, Chief?" He goes, "Mr. Mancini, you're gonna work with the Undertaker." I go, "Who's that?" He goes, "Kane." I go, "Kane. Where is he?" He goes, "He's down there." And I looked. I said, "The guy with the red hair, the freckles?" He goes, "Yeah, that guy." So I go, "Okay." At that time, I have balls as big as elephants because I've been there for so long. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I have a reputation that you have guys that they've never seen before, and they're going to get the snot knocked out of them. You know what I mean? And then there's me and Barry Horowitz and guys like that the guys know, listen, this guy's going to get me over. I'm cool. I'm calm. I'm good. So I walked up to Mark and I said, "Hey, Mario Mancini, how you doing?" And he said, "Good. I'm Mark." I said, we're working together tonight." He goes, "Oh, okay." I said, "What's your finish?" He said, "Well, a tombstone." I said, "What's that?" And he said, "It's a reverse pile driver." And I said, "Well, I've taken a dozen of those from Don Morocco, so I'm good." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I love Don Morocco. Oh my God, do I love him.
And what was his reaction to you saying that?
Well, he said, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
And he said, "There's something really important in the match, Mario, that you need to know." And I said, "Okay." He goes, "Now I'm going to let a secret out tonight that I don't know if I went over it in the last podcast, but I'm going to let it out tonight.
Okay.
So that everybody can get a laugh." So he goes, "I'm going to walk the top rope." So you got to remember something. I'm 5'11 and a half with my boots on. He's 6'10.
Yeah.
So I'm going, "You're going to walk the top rope?" And he went, "Yeah." I went, "Okay." He goes, "I'm going to take your arm." He goes, "Mario, you have to keep your elbow locked. Listen, if your elbow collapses, I fall off the top rope." He goes, "You have to keep it locked." I go, "Mark, then that's when Chief walked up and he said, "Well," he says, "Mr. Mancini, you're fine." He goes, "Okay," because he's never met me before. He goes, "He's been here a long time." Mark goes, "Oh, okay." So I said, "Okay, you're going to walk the top rope." I said, "No problem." And he goes, "Oh yeah, I'm going to clothesline you backwards over the top rope." And I said, he goes, "You could do that, right?" I go, "Yeah, no problem." He goes, "All right." I go, we're on this hour, this match. I'll see you out there." He goes, "Okay." He goes, "Hey, thanks a lot." I go, "Yeah, no problem." Now I walk away from him and I go, "Boy, I've been here 6 years. I've never went over the top rope backwards. What am I going to do? I don't like the traditional way. It's uncomfortable for me."
Yeah.
So the traditional way of going backwards over the top rope is to lean your left arm over the top rope, kick your right leg diagonally to your body, and it brings you over the top rope. I don't like that. I don't trust it. So now I'm sitting there in the dressing room. Now Chief's wondering what's going on because my yap is shut. I'm not laughing. I'm not commiserating, going around ribbing and talking and laughing with everybody. I'm just kind of sitting there going, and I go, "You know what? If I push the top rope below my waist, I'll go right over. I'll go right over." So I go out there. The match starts. He throws me in the ropes and he chokes me. And he walks me back to the rope.
Yeah.
The referee tells him, "Stop choking." He turns. When he turns and gives a glare, now everybody misses it until you watch it again. And Maurice, I know after this interview, you will go on YouTube and watch it again.
Yeah. And I will also link the video in the description here if anyone wants to watch
Right.
it.
So when he turns to the referee, I push the top rope down. And I even give a little glance behind me to make sure I'm not going to hit anything when I go over. I push it down. Everybody misses it until I bring it up. I push it down. He gives me the clothesline. I go right over it. I go backwards right over the top. And I'm on the floor and I went, "It worked." So then
Winging it.
yeah, so the pile driver looked really good. There's not one person that ever saw that pile driver and said, "Bull, you hit your head. I see it. You hit your head. I can see it." Never. I never hit my head. So after the match, we came down and, he had a smile on his face. He goes, "Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it." I said, "Well, I did really good walking that top rope, right?" And I said, "That was something else, a guy your size, and I shook his hand. I said, "Good luck. It's nice to have you here. Good luck. I hope, things work out for you." Because the question I'm asked is, which is a ridiculous question.
Did you know?
Did you know when you wrestled him for the first time, he was going to last 30 years and my answer is this: you were his debut match. And I go, I was Big Bully Busick's debut match too.
Yeah.
How long did he last? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he was a great guy. I mean, fantastic person. So sad he passed away.
Yeah.
But I
The
was his
one
debut match.
yeah.
Where'd he go?
The one thing I can take away from what you said to me, and I'll tie it back to the latest interview I done with James Ellsworth, who's a guy that was in the business more recently, was the guy always carried himself with respect, even on the first night walking in there, like
Oh,
thanking you and being a nice guy.
yeah,
That's
absolutely.
one thing he never lost.
No, absolutely. He was no, and may Jimmy rest in peace. He was no warrior. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He stayed consistent. Meaning when I met Jimmy for the first time in Texas, another funny story. I looked at him, my eyes just bugged out of my head because the fans can see him on TV and they can even see him live. But to stand 3 feet away from the guy, I mean, he was just enormous.
Yeah.
And I go, how you doing? I'm Mario Mancini. He goes, Jimmy Hellwig, how are you? I go, good. He goes, how are things around here? I go, I said, well, um, you know, Harley Race has said to me, and Terry Funk has said to me, boy, I don't beat nobody. I got to beat somebody. So I'm going to give you stuff to do. I said to him, that's not what they like here. So you got to go out there and squash the guy, squash him. I said, do I swear to you on my kids, I said to Jimmy, and this is a great story. I said, don't sell a thing. The guy hits you, it's like a flea. Don't even register it. Okay. So now he goes out and he works. The jobber he's working with gives him one to the bread basket. He registers it. I said, oh,
Right.
shit. He comes back. I walk over to where he is. Just while I walked over to where he is, Pat Patterson starts walking fast toward him like this, going, meaning don't move, don't move. And I'm standing there next to Jimmy, and Pat comes up to him and he goes, don't sell anything, nothing. They hit you, you don't sell anything. And he went, okay. And Pat walked away and he just went, I went, hey, don't sell anything. And, I said, I told you, that's not the way it is.
Yeah.
You don't sell anything. And we were friendly. And then he just took a turn. I don't blame him. I think he still holds the record for the most days consecutive on the road. They burnt him out, but man, he
Hmm.
got being real mean, real mean. Where, I'm glad you said that about Mark. Mark just, he stayed graceful, you know what I mean? Which is what the business is all about. You're supposed to be as professional as possible. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? It's a business. You know what I mean? So I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear that he was. I knew at some point he became like the Andre in the dressing room. He was the boss.
Yeah. I
Um,
had I
yeah,
had a graphic designer on the show that used to work for the WWE, and he told me actually a story about the Warrior coming in when Charles Wright, the Godfather, was debuting as Papa Shango, and he was going to be on the same show as the Warrior, and the Warrior walked past this guy who was designing his costume and kicked it out of his hands basically, and just kicked it onto the floor and just didn't even register, just walked past him.
yeah. I mean, he became he became pretty nasty. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? He just, you know, it's you get respect by going through the stages of the business. When you take a guy that didn't pay his dues and just shoot him up, the boys aren't going to be happy. And that's what
Hmm.
happened to Jimmy. They weren't
Yeah.
happy. It's like, David Schultz, Dr. D, love him. I love Dr. D. Um, but my second professional match, he broke my nose in two places. August 9th, 1984, at the West Warwick Music Theater. And I had just sent him a long text a couple of years ago. And I said, thank you so much for breaking my nose. I said, you really did me a favor because it accelerated my hazing. It accelerated it where, oh, this kid already got his nose broken. Now, when you're 18 years old, they're going, is he going to unlace his boots and never come back? Or is he going to heal and just keep wrestling?
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? So I thanked him for that because you got to be tough. And I proved I was tough, and he did that for me by breaking my nose. So even when I see him at the conventions, he always shakes his head, starts laughing. But it's the biggest hug I give anybody because I love him to death. I love him, and he's got a great family. But every time I see him at a convention, I go, Doc, how you doing? So,
Holding your nose.
yeah.
Like, you were the debut match as well for the Hart Foundation for
Yeah.
Jim and Bret. What were those two guys like to work with?
Um, Bret was snug. I not only did I work tags a lot with them, but I've done Bret a couple of times one on one. It was one house show, as a matter of a few house shows I did with him in upstate New York. He was Bret was so good. He was snug. You knew he was there, and you felt it, but it never hurt. But it was just enough, where you knew it, but it wasn't bad. It was just he was just a snug worker.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, Anvil was stiff. He
Yeah,
was
he looked it.
yeah
He looked it.
he was stiff. Nice guys. You know, didn't talk a lot, but they were great guys. I got to talk to Anvil the most in 2014 when we were inducted into Joe Bruin's New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. And he did something really nice, and that's on YouTube too. The inductions. He did something. Jose Luis Rivera and I were sitting together, and I was in shock, um, because those guys were the jobber kind of guy. You're a jobber, you know what I mean? Those are those kind of. And I was in absolute shock because Neidhart took the microphone and he said, "Without Mario Mancini and Jose Luis Rivera, there is no Hart Foundation. Doesn't exist." And I want to thank these guys for, and I was like, holy shit, I can't believe he said that. And another brother of mine, Greg Valentine, goes up there and he goes, yeah, what Neidhart said about Mancini and Rivera. Yeah. And, Craig's all full. He's all full of heart, Valentine.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Is Bret, like you were saying, that he's a snug worker, and you obviously felt protected in the ring with him as well, which is like a good thing. It's a great thing for wrestlers to kind of feel that, isn't it? But outside of the ring, was he a really focused, really serious guy?
What Bret was the kind of guy, thank God, is he at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, if the ring was erected, he'd say, "Who wants to go in?" Me. Let's
Yep.
go. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? If you sat there and talked to him about wrestling, he's going to sit there and talk to you about wrestling. As a matter of fact, Roma always makes me feel good about it. He always talks to me about this incident that happened to me, and he always makes me feel good about it, because if I think about it too much, I have a bad day. So it was 1990, and I'm sitting in the dressing room, and Bret comes and sits next to me, and he's staring at me, and I
Okay.
go, "What?" And he won't say anything. He's just staring at me. I go, "What?" He goes, "You're getting killed out there." I go, "What else is new?" I always get killed out there. Will you tell me something I don't know? He goes, "Why don't you go to Calgary?" He goes, "I'll send you to Calgary to my dad." I go, "Let me get this straight. I've been here 6 years, paying my dues, and now you want me to go work on the farm. I'm going to meet your father. He's going to break my arm after being 6 years in the business." I go, "I got it. He won't fix the heat on the bus. You got to drive 14 hours." I go, "Bret," he goes, "Look, it's just an idea. It's just an idea. I thought you'd get off the TV, go to Calgary, work that territory, and see what happens." And I always tell Roma, I go, maybe I should have did that. I regret that. Maybe I should have did that. And he always turns around and goes, "Yeah, Mancini, did he guarantee you were coming back?" I go, "No." He goes, "No, what the hell? Did he say go there and you'll come back here?" I said, "No." He goes, "Then don't feel bad about it. You could have left and never came back."
Mm-hmm.
I go, "Well, maybe I could have went somewhere else after that. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, there's another guy that did a documentary, and he was right. How can I argue with the guy? He said, I walked in to the land of giants. You know what I mean?" And he showed pictures of Jerry Lawler and Dusty Rhodes and smaller guys in down south and everything. He said maybe Mario should have went where he was the same size of the guys that were over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead, I walked into Big John Studd and all these
Giants.
humongous guys.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know. But Bret was always very helpful. Um, he was always a good guy. I mean, the best guy in the dressing room was Kurt Hennig. Nobody will ever top him. I mean, he just loved everybody, everyone.
Yeah.
And but Bret was very professional, very good. Bret Bret was there for wrestling, and that's why these guys today, the entertainment business was. You know what? I'm glad. Keep your entertainment business. I was in the wrestling business.
Yeah, the only guy that reminds me in the business these days of Brett would be AJ Styles.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and I know because he like he's a wrestler. He's not an entertainer really. He's a wrestler.
Right, right,
Like we talked about before. Like he's not that flashy with his character and stuff like that. He just gets in the ring and does the business technically. Like Brett, Kurt Angle, and AJ Styles kind of all fit that bill.
right, right.
The last time we were talking, you were telling me a great story about when Vince came in and can't remember who was it that was busted for steroids. Remember that story? And Vince
Steroids,
came.
or it was the Sheik and Duggan with the
Yes, that was it.
with the coke and the marijuana.
All right, yeah, coke and marijuana, close
Yeah,
enough.
there was. Yeah, that was the day I walked in, and Howard Finkel goes, "There's a meeting at 5 o'clock at 5:30 upstairs in the
Yeah,
ballroom." I go, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." I go, "Hey, Chief." He goes, "Just be there." I go,
yeah,
"Yeah, but Chief." He goes, "Just be there. Shut up." I go, "Okay." So we all go up there, and the whole production is up there. And Vince comes through the door, man, and he whips his blazer off, and he throws it on the ground. And he goes, "We've done so many good things, so many great things. They were waiting for us to screw up. They were waiting, and we did." He was hot. He put anybody caught with drugs, anybody. And you know what? The funny part was I wasn't that far away from Hogan, and
yeah,
I kept like I side eyed over to Hogan, and he caught it, and he's kind of side eyeing over to me, and I'm like, well, this son of a bitch will never be in trouble. I mean, he could be, he could do anything. They're not getting rid of him. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
that was a very scary day, and that was a very quiet dressing room that night. No,
Have
we were told after that meeting, Vince comes down here and sees you laughing and stuff, he's gonna get hot. So there's no laughing or joking around tonight.
Have you ever seen him angrier or at a level like that before?
Yes, yeah,
Aside from that,
yeah, yeah,
anything you can tell me?
yeah. I did. I did. Vince Vince used to vendor out for TV production, meaning cameras, lights. He would he would rent that stuff. A production company would come in and do it.
Yeah,
And one day his camera wouldn't work. It screwed up the whole TV taping. He came in the back and started smashing shit. Damn it! The screaming. I mean, you could fry an egg on his face. I mean, it was just a bad technology night that night. And the following week, he spent I don't know how many $1 million on his own stuff. Hired his own people, got his own rigs, his own WWF trucks and everything, and he just started doing it himself. But he took a pretty massive fit that night too.
yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of backstage ribs, what's the funniest one you've ever seen, or one that you can tell even? Because I'm sure there's ones you can't tell from back in the day.
I somebody came up to me when I was 18 and said, I'll go over a couple of them, and
Yeah,
said, "Mancini, do you have a La Fuga La Fangue?" I go, "What?" He goes, "A La Fuga La Fangue." I go, "No." He goes, "Well, you can't be a pro wrestler without that. You better go borrow one, and don't let Vince catch you without one." So for about the next 40 minutes, I went around to everyone. I didn't give a damn who they were. I said, "You have an extra La Fuga La Fangue?" They go, "No, I only have one." I can't spare it. You know, you better get one. I go, where do I get one? He goes, oh, this special made. You got to see a certain person. I'm like, damn it. So I go around to everyone and finally tried not to bother him. I went up to Chief and I said, Chief, I need a Lafuga Lafangwe, or they said I can't be a pro wrestler. And he went, who told you that, kid? I go, that guy, nobody has any. Everybody only has one. He goes, kid, there's no such thing. They just rib you. How long did it take you to get to me? I go, I don't know, about 40 minutes. He goes, oh, let's just sit down. This is why I tell you to sit down and shut up. I go, but I didn't say anything. It came up to me. You know what I mean? So that's a first grader.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you got me in Pennsylvania in a high school, closing my locker, and I go in my bag. I get my towel, my toiletries. I take my shower. I come in. I open up the locker to get dressed, and there's padlocks around every loop of my pants that Fuji put.
Wow.
Yeah. So you got to rip every loop off your pants in order to put them on. You got to tear it. And you got to smile and laugh because Fuji will slice you into ribbons. He will kill you. Okay. Fuji will kill you. So I'm like, oh, Papa San, that's so fun. It's funny, Papa San. Yeah. You do that so you don't get killed, number one. And number two, if you act like you're mad, you know what Fuji's next rib is, which I've seen? He takes a nice shit in your bag.
So you didn't get to that tier.
No. Fuji shits in your bag. So other than that, it's the what you've heard a million times. It's the British Bulldogs. It's the Halcyon. All right, the H bomb.
Yeah.
And I was told very early on, thank you, SD Jones. I love you. May you rest in peace. You get a soda, you drink it, you put it down, you walk away, get a new one. He said, when you walk, that's out of your sight. Don't you ever pick it up and drink it again. Commandment number one, Mancini. I said, okay. And I lived by that.
Yeah.
Well, they'd H-bomb new guys and they'd knock out and they'd wake up with a half a head of hair. If they had a mustache, one side of a mustache, and then they drop their pants and shave their nuts, one side of their nuts. So they had half pubes. So
oh man,
that was a famous one. That was the famous one for the Bulldogs. That H bomb was pretty strong in the dressing room and outside the dressing room. Until one particular person made a bad mistake and Vince got sued, paid out about $250,000 to the father. So yeah.
And he would have probably known that kind of stuff like that was going on. It was kind of more acceptable back then. Different times.
Yeah, way different times.
What was I going to say in terms of if you were coming in and you're working with someone and the two of you guys get together, how much input did you have back in the day of putting the match together? Because I know everything these days is like pretty much on a piece of paper. So the likes of, we'll say, when you were facing King Kong Bundy when he came in for the first time, and obviously he won the match, did you guys get to, like you did with Mark, kind of with the Undertaker, discuss it between yourselves, or was it kind of all laid out?
And you know what? It's good that you brought up Chris, because as I said, I got a better reputation and I got more comfortable as time went on. So early on, I had no input. I just got to finish what you're finished, and that was it. You know, they call everything in there. I just take the bumps, and that was it. But as it progressed, I got a little more. So it's good that you brought up Chris, because after I worked with him, this would be like the third time I'm going to work with him, right?
Yeah.
And I said, hey, Chris, you know what looks like shit? He goes, what? I go, the bump from the avalanche is horrible. He goes, what do you mean? I go, you come out, spin, and fall on your back. I go, that guy's not plastered. He goes, what do you want to do, Mario? I go, I want to fall right on my face. I go, give me the avalanche and I'll timber right onto my face. And then you take your toes and just flip me over. He goes, okay. So he gave me that avalanche and I just, boom, face first right out of the corner. It looked great. It looked great. Of course, there was Ted Arcidi. Now I was training Ted Arcidi at Passerello's Quest when he was getting ready to go to Vince, and he wasn't ready. But Vince wanted him.
Yeah.
So Chief said, you got to bring him. He goes, and you work with him. I said, he's not ready. He goes, you work with him. I said, yeah, what am I going to work with him every night? I mean, I'm the only guy he can work with because I'm training him.
Yeah.
So that was the only job I ever did where I called every single thing he did.
Wow.
In that match, I called the whole match. So
there was another guy I seen when I was just looking through guys that you've fought maybe and I haven't heard you talk about before. The Big Boss Man. What was he like?
Oh, he was so great. What a nice guy. I mean, just a happy. The thing I remember about him the most is that he was happy-go-lucky. He was just happy to be there, man. He would honestly really twirl that stick around in the back and everything. He wouldn't let it go. It was like his little whoopee. And he was just a happy guy. He really was. And he was really good to work with, too. You know, he was just a nice guy. A lot of them were great guys. A lot of them were dicks, but he was a good guy.
They really turned him into an on-screen dick over time, like into the 90s, you know, like when he fed Al Snow his fucking dog, and then he dragged the Big Show's father's coffin, and then the Undertaker fucking hung him from Hell in a Cell at WrestleMania as well. He really went through a lot.
Yeah, he was another one. Sad to see him go. He was a good guy.
Typically, then after a show, did you ever socialize outside of the ring with these guys?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, and give me a typical night out, or have you got any stories you can tell about a night out with the guys?
I got so hooked with that, and I was addicted because, like I said, any podcast I do, I don't lie.
Yeah,
I tell the truth. So I graduated high school a virgin. Right? I never even kissed a girl in high school, and I went to 3 proms, Maurice, and I never even kissed a girl in high school. Right?
Brought the wrong girls.
So now I'm like 6 weeks after I graduate high school, I'm in the WWF.
And now are they all calling you?
I did get some revenge later, a decade and a half later on a couple of them. But
yeah,
here I am with all these groupies, these ring rats. I'm like, so now I get addicted. So it's like, I remember I was in Canada. I was in Brantford, Ontario, and I looked at Roma and I said, yeah, I'm going to go see what's out there. So I go out there. I got my boots and trunks on, tank top on, and I go around the corner to the back where the steel barricade is. All the fans are there trying to get autographs. I'm trying to scope out, see if somebody will come back to the hotel room, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't know, but I've been stooged on a few times already because I'm like a hound now. I'm like going crazy with these women, right? So they're all behind the steel, maybe 20, 25 people behind the steel barricade. And I'm talking to them. I'm rapping with this girl. All of a sudden, everybody stops smiling. And I go, and it was Vince. And he goes, what are you doing, Mancini? I said, nothing. He goes, are you here to work or are you here to get laid? I said, I try to accomplish both. He goes, every time I see you outside of the dressing room, it's going to be $100. So now I sprint back into the dressing room. I whip open the door. I almost hit Tony Atlas. Roma looks at me, goes, "What's the matter?" I go, "Caesar caught me outside. Caesar caught me outside. He got mad, right?" So he goes, "Jesus." I go, "I can't go back out there. I can't go back out there. He's going to find me, right?" So now the next week, and Roma he was the playboy, right? No, I got in trouble. So now the next week was Poughkeepsie. So there are 1 million diners on Route 9 in Poughkeepsie, New York. 1 million. It's 2:00 in the morning. We walk into a diner. Roma sees 3 women. I'm with me, Roma, and Gino Carabello. Sees 3 women at a table. Roma goes, "Be right back." Goes, start 5 minutes. He goes, me and Gino go walking over there. We're sitting with the women. We're commiserating. We're laughing. Little leg rubbing and everything. Right. Well, we had a clear shot of the front door. Right.
Yeah.
Howard Finkel walks in. Pat Patterson walks in. George Scott walks in. Vince walks in. Looks over to the left. Does he look at Gino or Roman? No, he looks at me. And he goes. And he kept walking to his table. And I looked at Roman and I said, "We have to get out of here right now."
Yeah.
Right now. Now. He goes, "We haven't even done eating." I go, I just need to get out of here. Another time we were in Columbus, Ohio. We were at a Red Roof Inn. And there was a restaurant connected to the hotel.
Yeah.
Okay. And we were all in there. And Neidhart, I'm sitting there with Bret and Jim Neidhart. And we're at a table. And I go, "I'll have a Diet Coke, twist of lemon." Come back, "I'll have a Diet Coke with a twist of lemon." Neidhart's like, "A double Jack Daniels, double Jack Daniels." And Neidhart finally looks at me and he goes, "You mean Mancini?" I go, "What?" He goes, "Don't you drink?" I go, "No, I don't consume alcohol." He goes, "You would have never made it in the NFL." I go, "Well, thank God I'm not playing for the NFL." So I go into a corner with Gino, and we're BSing. We're trying to score and everything, right? Neidhart gets up, the 3-point stance. It starts hitting the wall. Yeah. The wall starts cracking. I said, "Gino, we're gone." I go, "We got to get out of here now." So we went to our room, and about 15 minutes after we went to our room, he said, "Woo, woo, woo." Here comes the guy. "Oh my God, get the hell out of there, man." Other times it was hanging with Roma. Again, I don't lie. I was just trying to hope to get his leftovers. Because you know what, I was right here. I'm standing next to Paul Roma. All right. Perfect head of hair, model face,
Hercules.
body chiseled out of stone. And here I'm Baby Huey standing right next to him. Hey, it's like I've never seen the sun in my life. I was the most pale wrestler in the ring, right? I got this porn stash going on. You know what I mean? And obviously he had egg whites for breakfast and I had Danish. So I'm standing there, trying to get his leftovers. And most of the time it was hanging with Roma. I remember I was at the Diamond Dust. Maurice, listen to this. I was at the Diamond Dust Cafe in Buffalo, New York.
Okay.
I worked on this stripper for an hour. Right across the parking lot was the Days Inn. And finally she said, "I get off at 2:30. What room number are you in?" This was at 1:00 in the morning. 1:15, Roma walks in. I go in. I lost her in 5 minutes.
Oh God.
5 minutes. And I looked
Roma.
at him and go, could you just share? Could you at least share? Yeah.
It seems that Roma and Vince both done their fair fair share of cock blocking back in the day.
Whoa, listen. I to this day I've never seen anybody operate like Roma. I mean, they just fell at his feet. The only guy I know that dated legit Miss Louisiana in the Miss America pageant. He actually not the like alternate or the runner up, the Miss Louisiana he dated.
Yeah.
It looked like your finger can go right through her skin. She was absolutely gorgeous, but hell is Roma,
Yeah.
back then. Much of a family man now, but back then,
Yeah.
I mean, 26-year-old Roma,
Yeah. I think we're going to need to do a part 3 of the podcast. I think after this, you got some great stories.
The next podcast we do, I'll go over the rivalry with Roma and Ted DiBiase. Although
Okay.
now a man of God and my brother, but they had a little bet going, so we'll go.
You would never know, because I'm coming to Dallas next month. You'd never know. You could be there. We might be able to do it in person.
Well, like
you just never know.
I didn't realize. I mean, what you said makes sense. It's his hometown, his home state. I just, like I said,
Let's see what happens.
I just want to know it was worth something. I think I'll see Mark. I'll see him at the big event, only because I know they did that show together, that trying to retrieve Andre the Giant stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
We'll see. To be continued. Yes. Mario, absolute pleasure again, man. Thanks so much.
Anytime, man. Anytime, I'll come on.
Have a good night.
You too, brother.